Welcome to the Final Bell, a national sports discussion show where we tackle the hottest topics in this week's sports. I'm your host, Femi Abebefe, alongside Kylie Wade and Sean Church. How are both of you doing tonight?
Good.
I'm doing pretty good.
You guys are doing good? Nice. That's excellent. You know, and it's been a little depressing here at the Final Bell because the NFL, unfortunately, has come to the end. The Super Bowl is last week, but that is not going to prevent us from talking NFL football as we dive into the Super Bowl champion Baltimore Ravens. They just came off a brilliant stretch, some may even say a magical stretch, but this offseason they have some hard decisions to make, starting with Joe Flacco. So what I want to know is, how will the Ravens overcome their salary cap issues this offseason?
Well, I wouldn't want to be the Ravens right now. They have a lot of issues to overcome. But I think what they have to do is look at it and just prioritize who they need to get back and who they can maybe replace through guys on their roster or guys through the draft. I think you have to start with Joe Flacco. I think that he's proved that he's earned the money. In this league, you don't want to have quarterback questions, and he's proven that he can be consistent. You got to start there, see what else you can afford, and just kind of go out from Flacco.
Right.
Yeah, I have to agree with that one. It's definitely, I mean, they're going to struggle. It's going to be hard. But you know what? They ultimately got the goal, and that was the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that they think that next season's going to be a waste or anything. They're always going to be try to be competitive, but it sure makes it a lot easier when you win that Super Bowl. To be honest with you, they're not even the top 5 most talented teams in the NFL, even though they won the Super Bowl. I think this drive and this magical run by them was just driven by just straight heart, wanting Ray Lewis to go out a champion. I mean, they probably wanted Reed to go out champion. He's come back for one more year, but you know, it was definitely, you saw a different team once Ray Lewis decided that he was going to retire. And so, yes, they're going to struggle, but we'll see. But in the end, they got the Super Bowl they wanted.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up Ed Reed because Ed Reed is one of those headlining names that will become a free agent this offseason. And, you know, there's places he might be linked to New England. We don't know. But along with Ed Reed, Janelle Ellerbe, Paul Kruger is young. He might want a contract because, you know, guys want contracts the minute they get that Super Bowl championship.
Right.
So is this going to make it difficult for them to repeat?
Oh.
Yeah. Hold that thought. Actually, that will get us into the next question where we're going to discuss who is more likely to get back to the Super Bowl. Is it the Baltimore Ravens, the Super Bowl champion Baltimore Ravens, or the San Francisco 49ers? Sean, start us off.
Well, I mean, it's obvious. It's an obvious choice that the 49ers are the clear favorites to go back because some people believe that they will go back to the playoffs. They'll win the NFC West. They're going to go back out of the NFC, and even some people believe that they will win the Super Bowl next year. Baltimore, it's a question on whether or not they're actually even going to make the playoffs, maybe even go over 500 with all the problems that they're having with salary cap issues and just the fact that their team is old and brittle, gets hurt easily. Yeah, brittle. Gets hurt easily.
You're not calling them soft, are you?
No, I'm not.
Okay, just for clarification, we don't want to call them soft.
They hit hard, but they hurt the opponent and themselves while they're doing it. So, yeah, I mean, it's the 49ers. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion.
Well, between these two teams, I think the choice is obvious. You're looking at a team in the Ravens who it really looks like they're coming down from something. The pieces are kind of falling apart for them. Versus the Niners are kind of bringing it all together, especially with bringing Kaepernick in. But I don't know that it's going to be so easy for them. They've been kind of skating through the NFC West while Seattle and St. Louis took care of some rebuilds. And both of those teams are looking pretty competitive going forward. I mean, Jeff Fisher's got the Rams turned around way ahead of what anyone expected. And with Russell Wilson at the Seahawks, it looks like their rebuild might be over, and it's time to start doing some competing. So I don't know that they take the NFC West that easily.
Well, NFC West, best division in football.
You believe so?
I do.
Yeah, and it's going to be difficult because I see what you're saying with the NFC West and all that stuff, but even with the Ravens, though, like the AFC isn't the strongest conference anymore. I think that has shifted over to the NFC over the past 3-4 seasons. So even though the Ravens are losing a lot of guys to free agency, to retirement, whatnot, they might still have a chance just because the only two teams that are really the two clear-cut teams you can say right now are probably the Patriots and the Broncos with Brady and Manning.
Right.
So
but it took a magical run by the Ravens to beat both those teams on the road. So I guess we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I guess speaking of those New England Patriots, leads us to our favorite guy here at the Final Bell, Gronk, Rob Gronkowski. Another Super Bowl, another Gronk dance off at a nightclub. He was reportedly seen by TMZ the Friday before the Super Bowl at a nightclub with his shirt off, as usual, in classic Gronk fashion. You know? But this time, instead of just partying around, jumping around like he usually does, he's actually body slamming a friend of his while wearing the cast on his broken forearm. So what I want to know is, should the Patriots be concerned about Rob Gronkowski and his party boy type of ways?
I don't think they need to be seriously concerned. I mean, he's young, he's having fun, it's okay. I think maybe they would give him a little talk that says, you know, look how much we've invested in you and look at how much we've really built our offense around you, not just giving him the money. And you can see when he's not in that lineup that they really can't do a lot of things they want to do. So they've made a pretty big investment in him, and I don't think that they'd be wrong to maybe make that clear to him. But I don't think this is a point that they need to be concerned about. He was just
Gronk being Gronk.
You know, yeah, I'd be more concerned with the fact that they have him in 56-point blowouts and special teams. That's what I'd be more concerned about. You take what you get with Gronk. I mean, he's obviously a party guy. That's just what he is. I mean, he's kind of like Dennis Rodman. Like, you know, you take the partying away from him, you don't know how he's going to react. You take what you get. He does great on the field. Yes, he got hurt the last couple years, but you know what? I mean, the day after the Super Bowl or the Super Bowl night, whenever it was, I mean, he still has 5 months to recover. Obviously, he likes body slamming people. Just let him do it. You know?
I mean, it works out for them.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a physical guy. But, I mean, Gronk is not really following what is perceived to be the Patriot way. You know, they like the cookie-cutter players who are quiet, come in, shut up, do your job, leave type mentality. Does this Gronk messing around, does that kind of set a precedent to future players who may join the Patriots? They think maybe, hey, if he's doing it, maybe I can do it if I produce. Does that kind of create a party boy mentality, like atmosphere? Like, is there any issue with that?
I would say as long as you're doing it legally. I mean, I mean, there's no law that says you can't body slam your friend. I mean, if there was, then, you know, if there was one, then I would definitely talk to Gronkowski about that. But there's no law against it. Yes, it's kind of frowned upon, I guess you could say, because he is in a cast and he is a celebrity. But there's no law against it. He likes to party. He likes to drink. I mean, there's no drugs or anything I've heard there. I mean, I still think he puts in the work in the offseason that he needs to, because he is the top. I'd say he's probably the top 1 or 2 tight ends in all football. And you just take what you get with Gronkowski. And so as long as he's not breaking any laws, I think you just let him go and do his thing and tell future players that same thing, you know?
Yeah. To your question, I don't think it's going to change the culture of the locker room. It's not like he's doing this on Sundays.
That's true.
It's one thing he's doing in the offseason. It's clearly he wants to let loose for a few weeks. If he was doing it in the locker room or going out on
body slamming Tom Brady,
yeah, that might be a problem. But
do not touch the quarterback. I think maybe even Giselle might have him in a headlock. With that said, that leads us to our first break. But before we go to break, we want to know from you guys, who will more likely beat in the Super Bowl next season? The 49ers or the Ravens? We'll be back.
The 49ers, 100%. That is a guarantee.
Most likely between the two, 49ers. 49ers are just a better team in general. When you take the quarterbacks out of the equation, you've got great defense for the Niners. Frank Gore, who's still coming up to 30, but still running pretty hard. And also, you got some great receivers in Michael Crabtree and the rest of the bunch. So, Niners are my vote. But overall, Seahawks. Seahawks #1, no doubt.
I think both teams could get back. I was not actually able to watch Super Bowl, but I think that, yeah, Baltimore, San Francisco.
Welcome back to the Final Bell, where we'll continue to broaden our horizons now that the NFL season is unfortunately over. But that leads us to the ice. Make sure you guys have your jackets on. It's getting cold out there. Hockey season is upon us. It's been going on for about a month since the NHL lockout, but hasn't been that popular in the United States recently. So what I want to know from you guys is, why isn't the NHL more popular with Americans, Sean?
Well, I think it's two big reasons. One, it's a regional sport. You like to, if you're from Miami, you like to spend time outside. You like to watch the Heat play because they're indoors and they have LeBron James and Dwayne Wade. But hockey's nothing, there's no big, huge stars in hockey that kind of, relate to guys. And plus, it's not cold. It's kind of like you said, bring your jacket in. Another reason is that it's just this lockout has definitely affected it, and it's not just this one, but the one in 04-05. It seems like every few years they have a lockout. They start to gain more and more fans, and then they have a lockout, and they lose those fans. They lose those casual fans. You have the diehard hockey fans, and then you have the people that refuse to watch hockey. But then you have the casual fans that will watch it. Like, oh, look, it's on TV. I'll watch it. But you're not really sure, whether or not you like it or not. But then the lockout happens, so then you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna watch something else. And so I really think that affects it much. So I'd say it's definitely a regional sport, and the lockout's definitely hurting it.
What do you think, Kylie?
I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think the thing about hockey is it's not an intrinsically boring sport.
It's not. It's fast-paced.
Yeah, you have these huge guys chasing a tiny puck. They crash into each other at high speeds. They're allowed to fight, and they do it all on ice. Like, how do more people not want to watch that? I think what hockey's missing is kind of like you were talking about. It's missing kind of key access points for people. There's not a lot of points for people to jump in. Like you're saying, a lot of times people will watch things on TV because it's like, oh, I did that as a kid. I went out and I tossed the football
Easy
around.
to relate.
And now look, these guys are tossing the football around on TV. Well, growing up in the Pacific Northwest, I've never been ice skating, ever.
Me neither.
Let alone chase the puck around, It's a lot harder to relate. And also, it doesn't get the same coverage on mainstream sports media. So if that's kind of your window into sports, you're going to miss out on a lot of hockey. Not as many American cities have NHL teams, so you're missing out on the experience of kids going to games with their parents in some cities, like Seattle, for example. So I think that it doesn't quite have the access points that other sports have, and that's probably hurting its popularity.
Do you guys think that it's a sport that can gain popularity in the future, or do you think that it's gonna still remain the same or even decline even worse?
I think it will gain more popularity, but nothing too big. I don't think it'll ever reach the pedestals of basketball, baseball, and football, the big three. I mean, they call it the big four on sports.
Yeah, hockey is included in that. They're the NHL
right,
specifically.
but honestly, it's kind of like the big three, and hockey's a little farther down. But I think it will. It will go back up to where it is. It definitely will not make it as far as Canada is concerned, where Canada's number one sport is hockey. But yeah, I think they will. I think, especially in the Northwest, if Seattle was to get a team, I can definitely see a lot of fans going and watching hockey and liking the hockey team. But will they be higher than the Seahawks or even the Mariners or Sounders? No,
that'd be hard. That'd be hard to imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sport that, like you were saying, it's not something that we grow up with, especially here in the Pacific Northwest, But I mean, the data suggests that hockey may be in trouble, because amongst young people, in the age groups of 12 to 24, who are the up and coming sports viewers, for the future. Among people who said there were polled people about their favorite sports, and hockey polled very low. The NFL, of course, was number one with 24%, but actually, surprisingly, pro soccer, including like MLS and like European soccer, international soccer, pulled in at second with 13.7%. NBA came behind them, then college football, Major League Baseball, college basketball, and then hockey with 4.3%. Among people who are 12 to 24 said hockey was their favorite sport. So for the NHL, that is not the brightest
right.
sign. I'm not sure what they can do. I mean, I think maybe the best thing for hockey, they have the superstars with Crosby and Ovechkin, so I'm not sure where the NHL can pick up the steam.
They can do what they can as far as we're concerned as Pacific Northwest. I think we will accept a team if it comes, but it's hard to relate when, especially in the state of Washington, when the closest team is Vancouver and it costs $90 to get a general admission ticket to go to a game. I mean, that's just outrageous. So it's really hard to relate. And like I said, there's not a whole lot of youth hockey leagues that are really trying to. I mean, they're trying, but it's expensive, and I mean, you just bring a lot of things into it. But with that being said, I want Seattle to get a team. I would.
It'd be interesting. Yeah.
It would be fun.
Yeah. I mean, moving along to the state of Ohio, and a guy who is pretty popular in mainstream America and sports America is LeBron James. You know, a native of Ohio. Recently in Ohio, they have rejected anti-LeBron license plates. We all know he kind of left, and he really didn't leave graciously from Cleveland and the state of Ohio. He had the decision, went to Miami, had the pep rally. He had his poor decisions that he made. So Ohio is definitely not a LeBron-friendly place. But they are rejecting anti-LeBron license plates. And some of the license plates, they say, I hate LBJ or LBJ sucks, like in license plate lettering. And, you know, it's pretty funny stuff to me.
Yeah.
But they're rejecting them. So what I want to know from you guys, will LeBron ever be loved in his hometown state ever again?
No. I mean, people really start to hero worship athletes and just beyond what you would ever attach to someone you actually know. And they're this amazing figure to you. And when there's a huge betrayal like that he talks about on TV for an hour and is so publicized, that's so hard to get over if you've grown up really worshiping this guy.
Well, I mean, I think that he will be loved in his home state. I mean, he grew up in Akron. I mean, Akron, I still believe Akron worships him still. But as far as Cleveland is concerned, that region, I mean, of course not. I mean, that's kind of, that amongst other things, we will never accept A-Rod here for how he left.
That's true. And it wasn't even as bad as LeBron.
And it wasn't nearly as bad. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think he'll ever get accepted in Cleveland. But home state, I can see him getting. I mean, yeah, I mean, like I said, Akron still likes him. I can still see people liking him a little bit. You know, kind of maybe forgive him a little bit. But Cleveland, it's never going to get. It's never going to get better, and the reason why I think they're rejecting those anti-LeBron license plates is because there's too many of them, and and they're not very original. I mean, so
it's like, I hate LBJ. It's not very original.
They were more creative and
yeah, and so I don't think he'll ever get back to where he was. Of course, not where he was. Not only that, but I don't even think he'll be liked ever.
Yeah, usually in most cases, time heals all pain, but the cut might be too deep, LeBron.
Yeah.
you might have went a little too deep. Yeah. But moving to something a little more lighthearted, we all know that the Super Bowl had their power outage. You know, 34-minute delay. And it just made watching the game a little longer. I don't think many people flipped the channel because there really wasn't anything on TV at that time.
I flipped it to the Puppy Bowl. But.
The Puppy Bowl.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk about that after the show, maybe. But going on with the power outage, the following day, Monday night, the Minnesota Timberwolves, their people at the stadium thought it would be funny to turn the lights off after the first quarter entertainment. So, I want to know, what do you guys make of the Minnesota Timberwolves staff playing this practical joke on the people that were there and the referees and all that stuff?
I think it's hilarious. I mean, that's comedy. I mean, really, it is. I think you gotta look at sports in general, and you gotta look at it with a light heart. You know, you gotta laugh at things, and Minnesota, which is a very isolated part of the United States as far as the popularity is concerned. For them to get on, Sports Center when honestly they've been playing pretty bad. Kevin Love's hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's hilarious. I mean, I think everybody got a kick out of it, and it's making fun of the NFL. I mean, and NFL is definitely needs to be made fun of for what happened, and I think it was funny that one of their foes, another pro sports franchise, made fun of them for it. So I'd say 2 thumbs up and. Last comic standing. That's what
I don't have a problem with it. I love it. Get the fans involved, especially if you're having a rough season. Play some fun on the fans. If anything, I wish they went further.
Oh yeah.
You wanted 34 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
I love the idea of playing a practical joke, but they just turned the lights off. Like, hey, did you guys see the Super Bowl? Yeah, me too.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. That happened.
Yeah, which is weird because I think they were playing while the Super Bowl was going on, so everybody in the stadium probably was even watching the Timberwolves play when the power outage went out.
Oh no.
The one thing that they were missing in the practical joke was Beyonce.
Oh yeah.
I mean, my suspicion is Beyonce shut it down so hard at the halftime show that the electricity just cannot handle it.
I think Beyonce stopped it when they said come to Minnesota. So, yeah.
And with that said, we will go to another break where we'll come back and talk a little bit about the Forbes Most Hated Athletes list. And there's an NFL team coming up with a new logo. Wonder who it is. But first, we want to hear from you guys. Why isn't the NHL more popular in America? We'll be back after the break.
I think, hockey's just not really something people focus on that much. I think with other sports like football and baseball and even soccer to some extent, people get really excited about those, and hockey's just, I don't know.
The NHL should be more popular because it is much more fun to watch in person, I would know, and it's much tougher than football is, and I really don't understand why it's not more important in America, and we need to bring a hockey team to Seattle as well.
It's because we don't play hockey here as much. In Washington, I got a couple friends who play hockey, but in general, you don't have a lot of ice rinks in the area. And most kids, if they want to play hockey, they have to travel 3 days or like 4 or 5 hours to go across the state to go to an ice rink. So it's just the prevalence of how much you play as a kid and how many you can get the kids to become fans and make their kids fans and so on and so on. So we don't have that tradition, especially here in the Northwest. You can go somewhere on the East Coast and go Boston Bruins. You can look at the Red Wings in Detroit. They've got a pretty good fan base because they can get access to hockey. We don't as much. I think so. Just only because, it's such a big lie. 7 Tour de France's is so significant. It's huge to be that kind of a tremendous athlete. And to find out that you did drugs to help you on the way there, it's going to look very bad. Even though I will say his organization, Livestrong and all that stuff, is pretty cool. To build up on practically a lie is really unfortunate. So yeah, I'll give him that. #1 most hated athlete. Definitely more than A-Rod, because A-Rod is, he's worthless, but Lance Armstrong really meant something.
I don't know. I think people in this area are not a very big fan of like Alex Rodriguez for like leaving us and no good. So I don't know. I don't know that he should be at the top, but at least in this area.
I don't really agree with that because, I really like Tiger Woods and Michael Vick, and they obviously get hated on, but I just think people need to separate their personal opinions about a person and their opinions about them as an athlete, and you kind of have to separate those because obviously I'm not an adulterer or a dog killer, but like I think they're great athletes and I'm still a huge fan of them sports-wise, but you don't have to support them personally, so.
Welcome back to the Final Bell. Always good to hear from the voice of the people as they talked about the Forbes most hated athletes list in America. So now that we've heard from you guys, I want to hear from you guys. What do you make of the Forbes most hated athletes list? I guess we'll start from the top. Number 10, Cowboys quarterback Tony Romo. Number 9, Kobe Bryant. Number 8, NASCAR driver Kurt Busch. Number 7, it's only fitting, Michael Vick. That's the number he wears on the field. Number 6 was Alex Rodriguez. Number 5, Metta World Peace, the artist formerly known as Ron. Number 4, Jay Cutler. Number 3, Tiger Woods. Number 2, Manti Te'o. Poor guy, Poor guy. And then number 1 was Lance Armstrong with a 15% appeal rating in the United States. So what I want to know from you guys is, what do you make of this list? And should Lance Armstrong ultimately be number 1?
Well, yeah, I got a little problem with a couple of people on this list. For one, number 10, Tony Romo. What did he do? He's a good guy. I just think people just don't like him because he's the starting quarterback at the Cowboys. You either love or you hate the Cowboys. So for everyone that hates the Cowboys, everyone hates Tony Romo. I think, honestly, it's kind of a jealousy thing. He usually gets celebrity girlfriends. Who wouldn't want to start for the Cowboys? Yes, it comes with a lot of stress, but that's
it's a premier position in sports.
Oh, definitely, without a doubt. It's just like playing for the Yankees or the Lakers or Celtics. That's just the Dallas Cowboys quarterback is a great honor to have. Another one is Manti Te'o. For the scandal he's gone through, for people to think
poor guy.
Not only does that happen to him, but by the way, America hates you. I don't think that's right. He didn't do anything to have that happen to him, and I don't know. But for your other question, Lance Armstrong, without a doubt, needs to be on top of that list. Not only did he dope and cheat, but he lied to Americans, and he got just extremely mad at people that
Yeah.
that tried to bring it up. Man.
Sued a lot of people along the way.
Yeah, it just was. I think just like, just a terrible person, and I think he should be number one.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, a lot of these guys on this list have had some kind of scandal come out, but nobody really had the defenders that Armstrong did because he was so consistent that he never did it. I think people really believed him and went to bat for him and would really defend him against people who were like, no, man, you're crazy. Like, of course he didn't. Versus, like, when the Tiger Woods stuff came out, no one was like, no, that didn't happen.
Yeah, a lot of people were laughing.
That was funny. So I think that those people that were his strongest defenders probably don't approve of him very much right now, and that makes a lot of sense why he's number one. And I agree with you about Manti Te'o.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
And the guy loses his alleged girlfriend, and then America hates you the next day, which is sad. I mean, do you think some of these other guys that are on the list will ever get off, like maybe a Tiger Woods or a Meta World Peace? Alex Rodriguez, I don't foresee him ever coming off the list. What about Michael Vick? He's done a lot of good now that after his incarceration. Do you think that those guys ever have a chance of getting off the list?
I think if anybody does have a chance to get off the list, it is Michael Vick. He's done a lot of things to make his reputation a lot better. He's gone and talked about animal violence. He's gone to schools. I mean, you even saw him. It's not like by any means Michael Vick was the model citizen before the dogfighting scandal. And he's turned himself around. It's like as if this dogfighting scandal was the biggest slap in the face. I mean, obviously jail time, everything that had to go with it. But since then, have you heard anything wrong with him? Yes, he was on probation and stuff. But I mean, that doesn't mean that he can't go. Can't still get in trouble. And I think he's done a great job of getting on it. And I would say if you did this about 2-3 years ago, Michael Vick would probably be at number 1 or 2.
Probably.
And he's at number 7 now. So you give it a couple years, I wouldn't be surprised if he's even off. He's just off this list completely.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you're saying about that. I think a problem that a lot of these guys are going to have is that what they've done was so much known outside of the sports world that there's a lot of people that only know them for this. They've never seen Michael Vick play a game, but they know that he was involved with dogfighting. So that might be something that keeps them coming back on these lists. But if you keep making positive steps and contribute to your sport and try to look sorry for what you've done, hopefully some of these guys can get off the list.
Yeah, and in the previous segment, we talked about LeBron James and the hate that there's in Ohio. Are you guys surprised that he is no longer on this list? Because he was on this list in summer of 2010 after he made his decision. Are you surprised that he's no longer there?
I am a little surprised. They went through a stat last year of who they wanted to win the NBA Finals, and 48 out of 50 states wanted the Thunder to win. And why would they want the Thunder to win over the Heat? Well, because of LeBron James. So I'm a little surprised that they are not on that he's not on this list. I wouldn't be surprised if he was maybe not the top 5. I mean, he's definitely not done anything. I mean. But the thing about it with LeBron James is that he would have been on this list strictly on the fact that he left Cleveland. He has never had legal problems.
That's true,
He's never been considered a bad guy in the sport. Right. He's done a lot of great community work. And so the only reason he would be on the list is because of the decision. And so maybe that's why people are thinking, well, let's not put him on the list, because even though I don't respect his decision and I don't respect him for the decision, do I absolutely hate him? No, I mean, it's not like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting list nonetheless. We'll see if some of these guys can come off, but Lance, hasn't been a good year for you, buddy. But moving on to a team that we hope it's a good year. We're getting patriotic. Team USA Soccer. 2 days ago, they just lost to Honduras in their opening game of the final round of the World Cup qualifying. But assuming that they do qualify, fingers crossed, how far do you believe Team USA can make it in the World Cup?
Well, honestly, I think that right now they have to focus on each game that they're playing. I think that what we're seeing is a team with a lot of talent, but not a lot of leadership. There's not a lot of people stepping forward. They're not playing cohesively. I think that's what allowed them to fall to Honduras. If they can get the mental part straightened out, I think they can go far. But right now, they need to rebound. They came off of a 0-0 tie to Canada in a friendly, won in and got destroyed in Honduras. And they need to get their minds right. They need to focus on what they need to do to qualify.
Well, I mean, they're definitely one of the more talented teams. There's a reason why they go into the World Cup every year, and they have the most publicity from the world is concerned for a team that's only made it to the semifinals once and in the World Cup. So it's very they definitely know that the potential that USA has to make it far. But with that being said, they've not proven that. Even when the US had the World Cup in 1994, they beat Colombia in a great match. They couldn't do anything other than that. And so, yes, they have, as far as we're concerned, they have a better coach now
Yeah,
than they
that's
did
fair.
before. But they still got talented players.
Oh, yeah.
I would say talented players that can match up. They beat Spain a couple years ago in the Confederations Cup. They have potential, but it's putting it together. Just like you said, Kylie, you got to put it together. And soccer more than any other sport is one of those that you can be off one moment and be on the next, but at the same time, once you feel like you're on, it's too late. It's not like basketball. You go on runs. You give up a goal to Honduras,
That could be it.
that could be it. And so they just, they beat Mexico not too long ago. I mean, they have potential to do it. They just need to put it together.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to see some World Cup success. Because last World Cup, it was a good run for them. I mean, they made it to the knockout phase, but lost in the overtime game to Ghana. So, I mean, Brazil 2014, Team USA, come on. We're rooting for you. We're hoping you get it done. But now to our last question, and we always save a goodie for last. Moving to Florida, Tim Tebow's hometown, Jacksonville, Florida. The Jacksonville Jaguars are the latest team to have a logo change. It said they want to change the culture, start fresh. So what I want to know from you guys is, what do you make of the Jaguars logo change? Is this a publicity stunt? Is it something that could actually help them start winning games? Kylie, what do you think?
Well, I do think they want to change the culture of that team. I think when they brought in Gus Bradley from the Seahawks, he's a very high-energy guy, defensive-minded guy. They brought him in because they wanted him to take that team in a specific direction, and a very fiery, high-energy direction. The logo change, I guess it kind of fits in with that. I can understand the idea of wanting to bring in a new culture, but like we talked about with the Browns a while ago, this stuff is not impacting your play on the field at all.
not.
Congrats for bringing in Bradley, but the logo's not going to help.
Okay, we've seen like crazier things happen in sports. I mean, look at the Rays. The Rays take the devil out of their name, and then they make the World Series the next year. So, I mean, we've seen that. But with that being said, the Jaguars have a lot of trouble in their franchise. I'm a fan of the logo change. I thought the old logo was a little questionable. I thought that's something you'd use for a third grade flag football team.
Oh, I mean, they were playing like a third grade flag football team last season.
Maybe it did have
Yeah, but I mean, I think that just it's a new culture. I think they're trying to change up some things. I mean, when in doubt, logo and jersey change nowadays, apparently.
it'll fix everything.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's what, Gus Bradley coming in. I'm thinking, a little more ferocious logo. I like it. I mean, even look at the New Orleans Pelicans in an NBA. I mean, their Pelican looks scarier than I've ever seen any Pelican look. So, maybe that helps. So
Yeah, one of
Scary.
my friends on social media, Connor Vanderweiss, shout out to you, Central Washington grad. But what he was telling me about, it seems to be all the bad teams that are going through these logo and jersey changes every so odd years. So maybe that you guys hit the core on, like, they just need to get better players.
Well, I mean, you look at the Seahawks.
Is it?
I don't know. You look at the Seahawks.
That is true.
The Seahawks had the blue and light green logo for a while, and they won one playoff game. Then they get the new logo. All of a sudden, bam, they're going to the Super Bowl. They're going to the playoffs. They finally won a road. I mean, I think people just like to change. I mean, nothing excites me more than watching a good team play football. But do you know what else excites me? Is when a new team gets new jerseys. I watch them. Why else would I want to watch the Jaguars now? Because of their new jerseys. I wouldn't want to watch them next year if they didn't have the new jerseys. Now I'd like to see what those jerseys look like, so I'll get to watch them.
Well, I'd like to see what the people in the jerseys can do. Maybe it does speak to the mindset. If you're willing to bring in a new logo, maybe you're thinking like, okay, you know what? I'm not accepting the way this team has been playing. I'm going to do some things to change it. I'm going to bring in a new head coach. Maybe it's a symptom of that mindset, and maybe that mindset helps out. But I don't think changing what's on your jersey.
It's all psychological.
Yeah, I'm leaning a little towards you. I mean, because the big change is that the Seahawks drafted Russell Wilson.
Oh,
Got it.
Hey.
Because Russell knows. But with that being said, that concludes this episode of The Final Bell. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. We'll be back next week with another episode of Final Bell.